you recording already?
I just pushed record. Everybody, I'm super excited to introduce to you a very good friend of mine who lives in the United States, but is actually from Colombia and in Colombia right now. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and just say why you're there.
Sure, sounds good. Hey, Kat, thanks for inviting me, and I would love to chat with you. My name is Carlos. I am here. My hometown is called Pitalito. It's in the south of Colombia, where I've been for almost a month. Came down here to do my wedding, and we'll talk more about that in the next few minutes. But I've been in LA for 5 years. I've been in the US for 20 years, and yeah, that's me.
Wow, amazing. So you're in Colombia right now, and I really wanted to talk to you about what Colombia is doing. You know, how are they handling COVID-19, and what your opinion is on them versus United States, what different precautions that they're taking.
Sure thing. So I think the mood in the US before I left was still very not serious enough, I would say. I was already getting a little uncomfortable going to work. I'm talking about before the 10th of March, and my wife left LA on the 11th, and I left on the 13th, a couple days later. And when I arrived on the 13th, it was a Friday. Actually, I arrived at 3 a.m. on that Saturday, so the 14th. I traveled to my hometown, which is almost a 10-hour drive from Bogota, the capital, down to Pitalito. And so that was Sunday, the 15th. And on my birthday, on the 16th, they shut everything down. So I got trapped in my hometown, and they kept making the shutdown longer or extending the shutdown. So I've been here ever since. To your point about what is different, I think from then, so you see, it's been almost a month of this, and it was very serious from the beginning. Actually, I'll take that back. It was recommended for the first few days, and when they saw that people were not taking it seriously, it became very strict after maybe 2 or 3 days. So it has been very strict from the sense that social distancing was mandatory immediately. Wearing masks and wearing gloves when you go outside was mandatory. And within a week, they instituted something called ID and walk. Basically, if you wanted to walk outside, you had to show your ID, and there were certain numbers depending on the number that it ended with. So let's say numbers ending in 1, 2, 3 will go out on Mondays, numbers ending in 4 and 5 on Tuesdays. And it was like that. And only one person per car. They could not be more than 2 people in a vehicle to go out and get essential items. So only banks were open and only grocery stores were open. And of course, hospitals. So I think it works here because we don't have that big of a capacity to treat that many people. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with the famous curve of if you have a vertical, and let's say you have 3,000 intensive care units, you don't want to treat over 3,000 people because that's the capacity of your country. I'm exaggerating, I don't know the exact figure, but just to give an example, if we were to skyrocket in the number of cases, we would not be able to treat that many people. So that's, I believe, where the Colombian government was very responsible, and it made it very strict from the beginning. And we have less than 2,000 cases here, about 70 deaths so far, which it's sad, but it's probably a lot better than it would have been if nothing was done.
So would you say Colombia has a very good control over the virus and is taking great precautions to regulate it?
I believe so. And they're also trying to protect people. The government sent out investigators to make sure that people were not taking advantage of this and selling things that were either running out or that are everyday items that were tripling in price. So they have been very good. We have other examples close to us that are not so fortunate. For example, Ecuador, I was just talking with my wife, and her aunt, basically her father's sister, uh, she went to school in Ecuador actually many years ago, and one of her friends, she was in a different city from her mom. Her mom unfortunately passed away in her home, and funeral homes are so afraid of taking care of people or going to pick people up that are dead that the government had to start taking care of that. So people are literally dying in their homes, and if they're alone, there's nobody, everybody's so afraid to touch them that the government doesn't have the capacity to go pick up that many people. So she stayed, this is so sad, she was dead for 3 days by herself
Wow.
in the apartment. Nobody picked her up. And they're not allowed to go to the funeral. Basically, there are no funerals. We had
Oh
a
my
similar close
goodness.
case like that in Spain. It's really sad. We have my father-in-law. He's part of the volunteer firemen, and so they have helped keep this city where I'm at, which has over 100,000 people, is rather small, but it's a good number of people. They put, with the help of the federal government, they have military around the town. We're very close to Ecuador, and they're just controlling the flow very strictly. When he goes out, because he has to go out, he's actually the chief of the volunteering firemen. He goes out with a mask, he goes out with gloves, he puts out videos recommending the same to anybody that goes out. They're enforcing everything that I said very strictly in coordination with the police, with the military, with firemen, and they're helping hospitals and responding to a lot of cases, firemen are. And when he comes home, this is what all of our families are doing. We have, those aluminum containers when you bake something. I don't know what they're called, but we fill that half water, half Clorox, and put your boots in there. And he immediately takes a shower. Like he undresses at the door and he takes a shower. Luckily, we're in a beautiful farm. It's an avocado farm, and we have plenty to eat. So no items have ran out here. People didn't go crazy like in the U.S. and bought all the paper, all the toilet paper.
That was my next question,
Luckily, that
actually.
wasn't the case here. Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going off on all kinds of tangents.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think that a lot of Americans only have an idea of how we're handling it in our country and aren't aware that other countries are handling it differently. So it's very insightful. And I still can't find toilet paper. Luckily, I stocked up before this virus and we've always had a plentiful amount, but I'm getting nervous. It's cutting it close.
I don't want to be in that situation.
No, it's nice to hear that Colombians are not frantically hoarding toilet paper and paper towels even. There's literally no paper goods at the grocery stores right now. It's
Oh my
somewhat
God.
bizarre seeing how this virus doesn't affect those
Yeah.
needs, right? So
That's everyday needs.
yeah, it's very
Maybe
strange.
try to find an old phone book or something if those still exist somewhere.
If desperate times call for desperate measures, but well, thank you for the insight. Honestly, I appreciate it so much. I think that it's really interesting to hear how Colombia is handling it, and also with the identification cards. That sounds like it's just a way for the government to kind of regulate who will be out and about on what day, right? So that they know who's where. right?
That's right. They can control people, or they can control the situation a little bit better that way. They in the capital in Bogota, some of the major stadiums, they're building just kind of makeshift hospitals, and that is to treat normal patients, because there are still accidents, there are still cardiac arrest, there are still people with different conditions that need attention. So they're doing what some other countries are doing, which is graduating medical students early and making them treat regular patients, not COVID-19, so that they open up space at hospitals where they can treat these patients. In the US, to be honest, I'm kind of stranded, and I'm in what is a what is it called? It's not a substantial, but an essential service, which is financial services. So I work for a bank. I need to be there. We're allowed to go to work, or we at least have to give our services. And I'm afraid to go back because my sister suffers from asthma, and I don't want to be the reason for her to be infected. Right now, there are no planes allowed in the country since I got here, basically, or a few days later. So there are no planes for me to leave, but there are some humanitarian flights that I can leave with, but they will only send me to Houston or to Fort Lauderdale in Florida, and I'll be quarantined there for 14 days. So I don't have the resources to pay for a hotel for 14 days, and I'll have to find my way back to LA at my own expense anyway. And even just getting to Bogota, the capital, I'll need help as a US citizen. They'll send paperwork to present if I get stopped anywhere during my travels within Colombia. So there's a lot of considerations, a lot of unknowns. It changes by the day. I want to help my team. I want to be there. I can do something remotely that I am doing through WebEx, connecting to my office computer through here. But yeah, overall, it's very different. I wish the U.S. was doing a little bit more. Honestly, it's concerning to me that there is no strong, I would say, rules around this, and it's just horrible that we're leading in number of cases, and as of today, number of deaths as well. So it's a very sad story, very inconvenient for everybody. The ramifications will probably take years. To be honest, I feel blessed to be here in a farm. We're able to trade avocados for chicken, for eggs, for different things that we need. So I feel blessed. And I also feel blessed about everybody that was coming to our wedding, around 200 people, including you, Kat, that you guys are safe. So we took that decision about a week before the wedding, because there were a lot of people that were about to travel, and we made that decision early. So it was a difficult decision, but I'm happy that everybody that was going to be here is safe right now.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all that insight. I'm sure everybody listening, watching has opened up their mind and learned something here. And I look forward to our next Zoom call. Thanks,
Same here.
Carlos.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.